So yeah, you guys, I've found one of my old skateboards. So this was a board that I got from Ted, and it would have been basically almost exactly the same setup as what Ted rides. So let's take a look at this. The backstory behind this setup, why I found it, is I gave it to one of my friends years ago because he was going to start skating again. I gave it to him probably back in about like 2004, 2005. And he probably skated it a few times and then put it in the garage and never skated it again. So it's still in really good shape. So this is a Alien Workshop Jason Dill model. And it's got this weird texture on it. It's the only time I ever saw this deck, but I think a few companies did it. It's like almost rippled, and it was supposed to increase the strength of this board. So one thing I can tell you is I have ridden this a little bit, and the concave is like crazy steep. So like, if this concave was extended out to like an 8.5 inch board, this is a 7.5, by the way. It's actually probably a 7.6. When I measured it, it's like 7.6 over the front trucks, 7.5 over the back, 31.25 long, and a 14-inch wheelbase. So that's what this has. But yeah, back to the concave. If you put this on an 8.5 inch deck, it would hurt your feet. This thing, even at 16 years old, is crazy stiff. The tail is a tiny bit soggy. I think mostly just from like some of the chips it's got in it. That's probably why I stopped skating it. But as you can see, it's still in like pretty darn good shape. You know, that's the tail. There's the nose. Just a little bit of razor tail, not even bad. So yeah, it's still in super good shape. I've got some Stage 10 independent 129s. These are not the trucks that were on this board. The trucks that were on this board were actually these ones. So these are some Thunders, and I rode these for a couple months when I first got back into skating after getting clean. But what I would have ridden on this deck would have been 129 independent, probably Stage 9s. These ones are some Stage 10s that I had laying around, 129s, which are virtually identical except that they don't have holes in the base plate. But anyways, we better get to skating. The one thing we didn't cover is wheels and bearings. So these wheels were some 53mm Pop War wheels. That's not what wheels I would have ridden on here. I probably had 50mm Momentum wheels. That's what Ted rode, and that's what he would give me. And I think this was like one of the last decks he gave me before he stopped riding for Alien Workshop and went over to Santa Cruz. I was actually pretty bummed when that happened because I loved these boards so much. They're like crazy steep. Even though it's got a 14-inch wheelbase, it's still like really snappy and poppy. These kicks, you know, the kicks in concave are so steep. Like, I'm amazed. Most boards I step on these days are not as stiff as this 16-year-old board that's like probably a couple months old. And these are old bone Swiss too. I just put a little oil in them, didn't even clean them. They're all spinning pretty nice. I'm gonna run out of light here soon. I came here too late in the day. Come here at the wrong time and this shadow creeps on over here, but we got about 6 feet. Okay, so that was a lot of fun. But the crazy thing about back in the day is I used to ride this setup on transition. So back in the early 2000s, I got kind of over street skating for a bit, and there wasn't a lot of spots. So I started skating transition a lot on these tiny little trucks. And I think that's one of the reasons that I didn't know how to lock in properly on like my backside 50/50s. there just wasn't enough truck for me to learn how to get that crossover pinch from this wheel to that wheel. So I was always locked against my 2 heel side wheels, and I just never had a solid back 50. So we better take this to some training and see how it goes. And not only that, we got an extra treat here. I'm gonna put on these vintage Spitfires and see how those are. Vintage S4 tracers, dual core. The inner one is 101, the outer core is 99. And they are just your total 50mm classic shape. So these should look a lot better than these crusty old pop bores and hopefully feel a little better. Check this out. These Spitfires have way skinnier cores. Look how much thread is showing there compared to the Momentums. All right, let's get the first drop in here. I haven't even tried this yet, so I don't know what it's gonna feel like. Well, I can tell you right now, without a doubt, it's horrible. Like, no wonder I was limited in my transition skill building abilities. It just feels awful on 7.6 trucks. No, nothing about riding this feels okay in here. Alright guys, well, this board was pretty darn fun. It really sucks for some things, and that sort of, you know, is self-explanatory, right? Like, this is a sort of 90s, early 2000s tech street board. Really fun to do flip tricks and all that stuff. Not bad for grinds. I think this deck would have been way better with Ventures because of that like 14-inch wheelbase and 31.25 length. I think it would have worked better that way. But I sure didn't know any different at the time. Basically, I just would either ride like Girl and Chocolate boards or Alien boards. You know, Ted would give me the Alien boards, and every once in a while I'd buy something else for a change. But one thing, when you got something like 129s on a 14-inch wheelbase, it's so squirrely. So I'm not surprised that like when I've tried Ted's boards in the past, why the trucks felt so tight, because like you're just all over the place with such a tight wheelbase and small trucks. So that's a little info for you guys. The shorter the wheelbase, the kind of squirrelier your board gets, and also the narrower your trucks, the tighter your turning radius becomes. So combine the two and it gets pretty intense, and this board is definitely that. But that's what I used to ride. I didn't really know any different. Anyways, as you guys can see, I did have a lot of fun. If I could find a similar shape board, like same kicks and concave, maybe a little longer, tiny bit wider, I would totally ride this thing. I genuinely don't think they make boards like this anymore. You know, to have a deck that's this old and still feel that stiff and skate that well, I mean, this is a good quality deck, and that's why I rode Alien Workshop so often, because they were that good back then. They were really like above most of the competition. Anyways, just want to say thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. No, I won't sell you any of it. It's mine. Yeah, that's all. Thanks for watching. And to any of you that don't know, I do have another channel called Just Keep Skating. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't. That one's all tutorials. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, feel free to check it out. Again, thanks for watching. Till the next video.